narrative.
I never expected to overhear something like that. That night I had just finished cleaning up after dinner. It was a routine I had followed for years. Cooking, setting the table, making sure everything was in order while my wife relaxed after work. I didn't mind it. I believed that a relationship was about balance. She worked hard, and so did I. Helping around the house wasn't some burden for me. It was just what you did when you cared about someone. She had invited some friends over, so I made myself scarce, giving them space to chat without feeling like I was eavesdropping. I was in the kitchen rinsing the last of the dishes when I heard them laughing from the living room. Their voices carried easily through the house. I wasn't trying to listen, but when I heard my name, my hands froze over the sink. "He's only good for cooking and cleaning." The words were hers, my wife's. For a second, I thought I had misheard. Then laughter erupted. Not just from her, but from all of them. A chorus of amusement, as if what she had said was the most hilarious thing in the world. "You're so lucky," one of her friends said, between chuckles. "I wish my husband would just shut up and do housework instead of complaining about everything." "Right," my wife added, still laughing. "If I let him, he'd probably spend the whole day in the kitchen. But hey, at least I don't have to lift a finger." More laughter. More jokes. I could hear them taking turns, each of them adding to the conversation, turning me into some kind of punchline. I stood there, dish towel in hand, listening as the woman I had spent years caring for reduced me to nothing more than a glorified housekeeper. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. There was no appreciation in her tone, no hint of affection, just mockery. Like I was pathetic for taking care of her. Like I was worth less because I had been the one making sure she never came home to a dirty house or an empty plate. I could have walked in there. I could have called her out, asked her why she felt the need to humiliate me in front of her friends. But I didn't. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, staring at the soapy water, feeling something inside me shift. Maybe it was the realization that she didn't see me as her partner. Maybe it was the understanding that all this time, I had been giving my best to someone who didn't respect me. I don't know how long I stood there, letting their laughter fill the house. But when it finally died down, I placed the dish towel on the counter and walked out of the kitchen. I didn't want to look at her. I didn't want to see the smug expression she probably had on her face, the way she thrived on their laughter, reveling in the image of me as some kind of joke. So I went to bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling strangely calm. I had expected anger, rage even, but what I felt was something much colder. It was clarity. I had spent years trying to be the best husband I could be. I never thought of my efforts as sacrifices because I genuinely believed we were a team. But now I understood. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a convenience, a tool, and tools could be replaced. That was the night something changed. I didn't lash out. I didn't start a fight. I didn't even let on that I had heard her. But I knew from that moment on that things would never be the same. The next morning, I woke up before her, just like always. I stared at the ceiling for a few minutes, letting the silence of the house settle over me. Normally, I'd get up, make coffee, and start breakfast so she could wake up to the smell of fresh food. Not today. I got out of bed, showered, dressed, and left the house without a word. There was no passive-aggressive slam of the door, no dramatic declaration of how hurt I was. I just left. I didn't check if she was awake. I didn't look to see if she needed anything. And most importantly, I didn't care. For the first time in years, I focused entirely on myself. I stopped at a coffee shop on my way to work and sat there longer than I needed to, just enjoying the fact that no one was expecting me to be somewhere or do something for them. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the minutes pass. Usually I was in a rush to get back home after work to make sure she had everything she needed before she even had to ask. Not anymore. I didn't text her during the day to check in. I didn't respond to her usual "what's for dinner" message. I just worked, took my time, and when the day ended, I didn't go straight home. I went to the gym. It had been so long since I'd done anything purely for myself. I used to work out regularly, but Over time, I had let it slip. I was always too busy making sure everything at home was taken care of. But standing there, lifting weights, feeling my muscles strain, I realized how much of myself I had lost. When I finally did get home, it was past the time I'd normally have dinner ready. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Where were you?" she asked, barely looking up. I shrugged, kicking off my shoes. "Out," she frowned. "Out where?" "Just out." Her eyes narrowed. "Well, I hope you got something for dinner because I haven't eaten yet." I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't mad, just expecting, like it was a given that I'd have handled everything by now. I walked past her, heading to the bedroom. "There's food in the fridge." That was the first crack. She didn't say anything right away, probably expecting me to change my mind and come back with a plate for her. But I didn't. I took a shower. I took my time. And when I finally came back out, she was still sitting there, arms crossed. "You didn't cook?" "No," I said simply. She scoffed. "So what? You expect me to cook now?" I grabbed a bottle of water and leaned against the counter. "Do whatever you want." The way her expression shifted was almost amusing. At first she thought I was joking. Then she thought I was trying to prove some kind of point. But I wasn't. I was just done. She didn't say anything else that night. She ordered takeout, ate in silence, and I went to bed without another word. The next day I did the same thing, and the day after that, no breakfast, no lunch packed for her, no dinner waiting when she got home. I still cleaned up after myself, my side of the bed, my dishes if I used any, but I stopped cleaning up after her. The laundry piled up, the dishes sat in the sink longer than usual. The house wasn't dirty yet, but it was noticeable. She tried to act like she didn't care, but I could see the way she glanced at the kitchen when she walked in, the way her eyebrows twitched when she realized the trash hadn't been taken out. Still, she didn't say anything. Not yet. At first, she pretended not to care. I could see it, the way she ignored the growing mess, how she scrolled through her phone while sitting next to a pile of unfolded laundry, how she would walk past the overflowing trash can without even glancing at it. She thought this was some kind of game, a childish attempt to prove a point. I wasn't playing. The first week, she held her ground. She ordered takeout, left dirty dishes on the counter, and tossed her clothes on the floor like she always did, assuming they'd magically disappear. But the magic was gone. By the second week, the cracks were starting to show. The takeout bags piled up. The sink was full. The bathroom mirror had streaks from toothpaste splatters she never wiped off. The laundry basket was overflowing, and since I only washed my own clothes, she was running out of clean outfits. One morning, I found her standing in front of the closet, sighing loudly as she sifted through the mess. "Did you do laundry?" she asked, not even turning to look at me. "For myself, yeah," I said casually, grabbing a shirt from my neatly folded pile. She scoffed. "Really?" I shrugged. "I don't have an issue washing my own clothes." Her jaw tightened. I could tell she wanted to argue, wanted to tell me I was being petty. But she stopped herself. Instead, she grabbed some wrinkled shirt from the back of the closet and stormed off. That night, she tried something new. I was sitting on the couch, watching something on my phone, when she walked into the kitchen and started banging pots around. She was never one to cook. She barely knew how. But now she was standing at the stove, scrolling through some recipe with a frustrated expression. A few minutes later, I smelled something burning. She cursed under her breath, yanking the pan off the heat and waving a towel over the smoke. I didn't move. I didn't offer to help. I just sat there watching. She turned to look at me, expecting some reaction. I took a sip of my drink. "You could help, you know," she snapped. "I could," I said simply. Her eyes narrowed. "So now you're just refusing to cook?" I raised an eyebrow. "I thought I was only good for cooking and cleaning." That shut her up. For the first time since this whole thing started, I saw it. A flicker of something in her expression. Recognition. Maybe even guilt. But it didn't last. She huffed and turned back to the stove, struggling to fix whatever disaster she had created. I left her to it. By the third week, the house was in complete disarray. She had resorted to re-wearing clothes from the bottom of the hamper. The kitchen was a disaster zone, with half-finished meals and burnt pots stacked on the counter. She had to dig through drawers to find a clean fork. I still didn't say anything. She tried a different approach, passive-aggressive comments. "This place is disgusting," she muttered one evening, pushing crumbs off the table. "Yeah, it is," I agreed, flipping through my phone. She waited, expecting me to react. I didn't. "Are you seriously okay living like this?" she asked, arms crossed. I shrugged. "I take care of my stuff." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "This is ridiculous." "Then clean it," I said, not even looking up. She didn't have a response to that. By the fourth week, the cracks turned into full-blown frustration. I walked in one evening to find her standing in the middle of the kitchen, arms crossed, looking at the mess like it had personally offended her. "This isn't normal," she said. "What isn't?" "This. You refusing to do anything." I leaned against the counter, tilting my head. "Refusing? I'm just not doing everything for you anymore." She stared at me, and I could see it now. The slow realization that she had never appreciated what I did until it was gone. She had laughed at me, mocked me, made me feel like I was weak for taking care of our home. Now she was standing in the wreckage of what she had taken for granted, and I was perfectly fine watching it all fall apart. The house had become a battlefield. Not in the sense of yelling or slamming doors. No, it was quieter than that. A war of silence, of avoidance, of shifting responsibilities that were no longer mine to bear. She was unraveling. I could see it in the way she walked past the mess without her usual dismissive attitude, in how she hesitated before opening the fridge, realizing there was no prepared meal waiting for her. In the way she checked her phone more often, expecting me to remind her to do the things I used to handle. But I was done being her safety net. She tried to act like it didn't bother her, but by the end of the month, her frustration was impossible to ignore. One night, I came home later than usual. I had started going out more, not with anyone in particular, just enjoying the freedom of being away from the weight of our house, of her expectations. I grabbed drinks with coworkers, stayed at the gym longer, took the scenic route home just because I could. When I walked through the door, she was sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. The kitchen light buzzed softly, casting shadows over the mess that had taken over every counter. She had been waiting for me. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice sharper than I'd heard in weeks. "Out," I said simply, setting my keys down. Her jaw clenched. "Out where?" I pulled a bottle of water from the fridge, taking my time before answering. "Just out," she scoffed, pushing back from the table. "You're really gonna act like this, huh?" "Like what?" "Like you don't care." I leaned against the counter, studying her. She looked different. Tired, her hair was a mess, dark circles under her eyes. She was still wearing work clothes, but they were wrinkled, like she hadn't bothered to change after getting home. It was the first time in years that she looked exhausted. And that's when I knew. She finally understood. This wasn't about me playing some petty revenge game. This was about her realizing just how much I had done, how much I had held our home, our life together, and how little she had ever appreciated it. She had spent so much time mocking me, devaluing me, making me feel like less of a man for cooking, cleaning, and taking care of her. But now, without me, she was falling apart. She exhaled sharply, standing up. "Fine," she muttered. "I'll just do everything myself then." I didn't stop her. I watched as she stomped toward the sink, turning on the water with a little too much force. She started scrubbing plates aggressively, muttering under her breath. I could have helped. I could have stepped in, taken the towel from her hands, and washed the dishes like I always did. But I didn't. She wasn't entitled to my help anymore. The next morning, she tried a different tactic. Instead of anger, she played the victim. "I don't understand what's happening to us," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed, her voice softer now. "We used to be a team." I glanced at her. "Did we?" She frowned. "Of course we did." I shook my head, standing up. "No, I was a team. You were a spectator." That shut her up. She looked down at her hands, picking at her nails. For the first time, she didn't have a snarky comeback. No joke, no eye roll, no sarcastic remark, just silence. But it was too late for reflection. I had spent years being the one who cared, who put in the effort, who made sure our life functioned. And all I got in return was mockery, was laughter at my expense. Now she finally felt what it was like to be alone, and I wasn't going to save her from it. She was losing control. The cracks had turned into fractures, and no amount of avoidance could hide the fact that she was struggling. The house was a mess. She was living off takeout and microwave meals, and she no longer had me to rely on for the little things she used to take for granted. And for once, I wasn't bending over backward to make her life easier. She tried different tactics over the next few days. First, she ignored me completely, hoping I'd cave under the silence. Then she went back to snide remarks, rolling her eyes every time she had to wash a dish or take out the trash. When that didn't work, she started acting unusually nice, making little comments about how we should get back to normal, or things don't have to be like this. I gave her nothing. And then came the breaking point. It was a Friday evening when I dropped the final blow. I was packing a bag, casually folding some clothes while she stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed. "Where are you going?" she asked, her tone sharper than usual. "Away for the weekend," I said without looking up. She stiffened. "Away? What do you mean away?" I zipped up the bag and finally met her eyes. "I mean, I'm leaving for a few days." Her arms dropped to her sides. "You're just leaving?" I nodded. "Yeah." She blinked like the concept was completely foreign to her. "Without telling me?" "I'm telling you now." Her mouth opened, then closed. She was trying to process it, trying to find something to latch on to so she could turn this into a fight or an argument she thought she could win. But there was nothing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't emotional. I was just done. "You're really going to be like this?" she asked, her voice rising. "Like what?" "Like some child throwing a tantrum." I let out a small laugh at that. "You think this is a tantrum?" She threw her hands up. "Yes, you're just walking away, acting like everything we built together means nothing." I paused for a moment, letting the words settle. Everything we built? I looked around the bedroom, the unmade bed that I used to straighten every morning, the laundry hamper overflowing with clothes she hadn't bothered to touch, the empty nightstand where I used to leave little notes or her favorite snacks, just because. It wasn't we. It had never been we. She had been the queen of this castle, and I had been the servant. And the moment I stopped serving, everything crumbled. I picked up my bag and slung it over my shoulder. "I'll be back Sunday," I said, walking past her. She stepped in front of me. "This is ridiculous." I didn't respond. "Are you even going to tell me where you're going?" "Nope." Her nostrils flared. She was furious now, not because I was leaving, but because she couldn't control the situation. She couldn't control me. For the first time in years, I had taken my power back, and she had no idea how to handle it. "You're just going to walk out that door?" she asked. Voice quieter now. I met her eyes one last time. Yeah, and then I did. No explanations, no justifications, no apologies. I walked out, leaving her standing there alone in the mess she had created. When I walked out that door, I expected to feel something. Guilt, second thoughts, maybe even the lingering pull of responsibility that had kept me tied to that house for so long. But there was nothing. Just silence. Just air. Just freedom. I drove without a real destination in mind, just knowing that I needed to be anywhere but there. I stopped at a quiet motel by the coast, checked in without hesitation, and spent the next 2 days doing something I hadn't done in years, living for myself. I ate when I wanted. I slept when I felt like it. I sat by the ocean, watching the waves roll in without the nagging thought of what needed to be done at home. No responsibilities, no expectations, no one demanding anything from me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt good. By Sunday evening, I pulled into the driveway, stepping back into the life I had put on hold for the weekend. But as soon as I opened the door, I knew. Things weren't the same. She was there, sitting at the dining table, waiting for me. The house was still a mess. The trash was full, the dishes piled high, and the faint smell of stale food lingered in the air. She hadn't fixed anything. She hadn't cleaned or taken responsibility for the disasters she had let happen. She had just waited. For me. For things to go back to normal. For me to fix everything like I always had. Had fun? She asked, her voice flat, unreadable. I set my bag down. Yeah, I did. She leaned back in the chair, crossing her arms. Must be nice, just leaving everything behind. I glanced around at the house, at the chaos she had let fester, and then met her eyes. Yeah, it was. Something in her face shifted. I saw it then. The realization that I had truly changed. That I wasn't just trying to teach her a lesson, that I wasn't waiting for her to apologize so we could patch things up. I was done. Her confidence faltered for the first time. Okay, she said, clearing her throat. So what now? You made your point. Can we stop this stupid game and get back to normal? I exhaled slowly, then walked over to the table. I pulled out an envelope from my bag, placed it in front of her, and slid it across the surface. She stared at it. What's this? Divorce papers. She didn't move, didn't speak. Just sat there, blinking, as if she hadn't heard me correctly. When she finally looked up, her expression was unreadable. You're serious? Yeah. Her jaw tensed. You're throwing everything away over some stupid argument? I let out a small laugh, shaking my head. This isn't about an argument. This is about us, or the fact that there is no us anymore. She scoffed, running a hand through her hair. This is insane. You're acting like I cheated on you or something. I stayed silent, letting her words hang in the air because in a way she had. Not in the traditional sense, not in the way that would make this easier to explain. But she had betrayed me just the same, mocking me, disrespecting me, devaluing me to the point where I was nothing more than a joke to her. She had killed our marriage with laughter, and now she had to live with the consequences. Her hands clenched into fists on the table. You're really doing this? Yeah, I said, voice steady. I am. She swallowed hard. I could see her pride fighting against something deeper. Fear, maybe. The realization that she had pushed too far. That the man who had once done everything for her was finally walking away. She could argue. She could beg. She could promise things would be different. But it was too late. I picked up my bag again, not needing anything else from that house, from that life. Good luck, I said, nodding toward the mess around us. Hope you enjoy cooking and cleaning alone. Then, without looking back, I walked out the door. And this time, I wasn't coming back. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.